And good, bright, and beautiful, well, evening, right, Russ?
Yes, it is. Indeed.
And welcome to Easy Bible Study with Kimberly Mann and
Russell Mann.
And Russell Mann. So we are doing a special tonight, special live broadcast. And if you are here live with us, that's great. If you're not, that's okay as well, because we are going to do this every Sunday at 7 o'clock. It's going to be our live broadcast from now on. So if you have any comments or questions, we are going to answer them live on camera. So we're going to take questions from the last week or two, or, from back in the time.
Yeah.
And I don't actually know what the questions are going to be. He's in charge of that. That's a little scary. But we will be right back after this, and stick around, and hopefully we will see you shortly. I know this is the first week, so you know what? You might not all be here. And it is summertime. Yeah, that could be a problem as well. But we're hoping that on a Sunday evening at 7 o'clock, every Sunday, you can join us. So we'll be right back after this.
You can have all this world. Give me Jesus.
And if you do find any value in this content, do us a favor. You know the drill, right, Russ?
Click like, subscribe, and don't forget, turn that notification bell on so you don't miss any future content.
Yeah, absolutely. Russ knows that because he does our real estate channel with me as well. So
do indeed.
Yes. So he's not usually here on this channel, but he will be here every Sunday night with me, as far as we know. So it'll only be if there's something that comes up that doesn't allow him to be here. So at this point, it is you and me, Russ, and we are getting into this. So are you ready to get into this topic? All right. So let's get right into it. Let me get the cameras going. All right.
So, one of the questions that I wanted to ask, and it doesn't bother me, but obviously somebody did.
Okay.
And they want to know why a woman is teaching in defiance of God.
Well, that's actually not my question to answer.
Well,
that's your question to answer.
Well, it's why are you teaching in defiance of God? I don't think it's in defiance of God.
But why not? Why is it not in defiance of God?
How many nuns are there in the world? And they're all teaching. So is that wrong? I don't think it is wrong. And I told Kimberly that she should actually teach it because she has such a vast knowledge of the Bible that I know I'm a pretty late learner in the Bible. In the last 10 years, I've read it from cover to cover. But it took me an awful long time to get to that stage. But Kimberly has a lot of the answers to the questions. And so if anybody has questions, why shouldn't they go to somebody who knows the answers?
Well, and you actually said to me that the reason that you said to me at the time, the reason that we started this channel was because you actually told me to start this channel.
Yeah.
You actually said, hey, you have all sorts of things that you answer questions for me. I think other people could benefit from this. Mm-hmm. So my answer to that is more along the lines of, in the Bible, it says that we as women are to live in subjection to our authority. And my God-given authority is Russ, or my pastor. My pastor does know about this as well. And he's completely okay. Thumbs up, no problem with it. And Russ is the one who wanted me to do this, and even still does watch the videos pretty much every morning.
I do.
Yeah. He watches most of them every morning so that if he has any questions, he can ask me. So, absolutely. So let's get into other questions.
Okay, we have some where people have just said thanks, keep up the good work. We have a lot of those. So I've got one here. And it says Genesis 13, 1 KGV says he went south of Egypt back home to the land of Canaan. Canaan is line of Ham, black hand.
Okay, so that's actually a racist comment. I don't normally platform those if I can avoid it. But that's basically somebody who believes that that Africa was founded by Ham, who was one of Noah's sons. And so the problem with that statement is that there is no evidence that Ham, the son of Noah, even though he was cursed by God for what he did because he mocked his father for being drunk, and we think he may have even sexually abused his father from the implication in the passage. We're not entirely sure about that, but there's a lot of theologians who think that's a possibility, that he didn't just mock his father, but that he actually did something physically. It was a mockery. It wasn't necessarily a sexual thing, but it was definitely a mockery of, like maybe laughing at his pieces and bits and things of that nature.
His
so
predicament.
No, not his predicament. It was his nakedness. It specifically says his nakedness that he laughed at. And so he was cursed for that with his son Canaan. And they left, and actually the land of Canaan that Abraham later on goes and settles in, that is Ham's son. It's who it's named for. And so there are some people who think, and I was just looking at my water bottle because I'm a little bit parched. There it is. Yeah, I knew I was about to cough. There are some people who think, however, that Ham is the founder of Africa, and that the reason, and that Ham was black, that he was actually skin tone black. There's no evidence in the Bible that he was skin tone black. There is no evidence that he founded Africa. His son Canaan is the one who settled the land of Canaan right after the flood, and then that was what God gave to Abraham later. So the Canaanites are actually children of Canaan. Ham, however, the families did continue to go further south and did go into the African continent, but there is zero evidence in the Bible that suggests they were black at that time. A lot of people believe that the reason Africans are black, at least at this point, is that long-term thousands and thousands of years of sun exposure, essentially, they've acclimated to that. And that's why their skin tone and their melanin is darker, because it was like not a genetic mutation in a bad way, but like in the same reason that Norwegians are very pale, because their skin acclimated to the lack of light. The same thing with Africans, that their skin over thousands of years acclimated to being darker to deal with the hot suns. So that's actually the reason. So that person was unfortunately thinking that he was being very clever, but not so much so.
Okay.
All right. Next question.
Jesus himself did vain repetitions. In Mark 14:39, again he went away and prayed and spoke the same words.
All right, so I'm going to go to that passage. It was Mark, what was it? 14?
Mark 14:39.
Okay, so first of all, Christ himself says not to do vain repetitions. Okay? Vain repetitions are what the Pharisees did. And this was from a section where we talked about how to pray. And in both James and in 1st or 2nd Peter, I can't remember what it was, it talks about vain repetitions being when people...
In Matthew 6:7.
No. In James and in 1st Peter, it talks about not having vain repetitions as the heathens do. So when I was talking about this video on Matthew 6 on how to pray, I talked a little bit on the fact that we should not do vain repetitions, because in Matthew 6 it also says, let me go back to that so I can see, if this person had watched the whole video and not just the short, they would have seen some of this answer, but they're wrong. Christ did not engage in vain repetitions. He says, when you pray, you should not be as the hypocrites are, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues, that they may be seen. Verily I say unto you, they have their reward. It says, when you pray, you're supposed to go into your closet. And then in verse 7, but when you pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do, which is that repetitive over and over and over. Okay. And it has, and in even this short though, I talked about the fact that, unfortunately, Catholics, one of the problems that they have is that when they commit a sin and they go before their priest, which is not biblical, we're going to talk about that a little bit, but it is not biblical to go and confess your sin to a priest. and a lot of things the Catholic Church does is not biblical. Nuns, priests, all of that, lots of it. But when you go in and you do a confessional and the priest will say, okay, you need to say so and so many Hail Marys or Our Fathers, what they're referring to is the Lord's Prayer, which we covered in that video. And the problem is they do it on the rosary, and they sit there and they pray, and they're just repeating the same prayer over and over and over just for the sake of absolution. That's not the point of a prayer. The point of a prayer is for so many different reasons. So I would recommend that if you want to know more about prayer, go and see the Matthew 6 video, the full video, and you'll see the context of that. But even on that short video, it was pretty obvious. Vain repetitions are not encouraged. In fact, they're discouraged. It says don't do them. That's what heathens do. So if we're Christians and we're not going to be heathens, we shouldn't be doing vain repetitions.
So what should we be doing?
We should be praying just like
Saying
it says.
More original.
So it's not even about original per se,
Personal.
because saying the Lord's Prayer is not a problem if you say it occasionally and you're really thinking about it and saying, okay, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. That's like really, really a cool thing. All right. One of the things that I have, and I don't know if I can show this on camera or not, because you can't really see it, but my screensaver, I will try and show it. Let's see here. You can't really see it. Oh, hold on. It went black. On my screensaver, it says the Lord's Prayer. And you can see it talks about, it's just a screensaver, so I have to do it like that. It says praise and acknowledge God, commit to his objectives, all these things that I have. And it's like, this says, ask for physical needs, ask for forgiveness for me, grace and mercy for others, ask for help in areas I fail, and then praise and acknowledge God. What Christ was doing when he talked about the Lord's Prayer was he was giving us a structure of prayer, not asking us to be vain repetition. In fact, he's right before the Lord's Prayer, he says, don't use vain repetitions. Now, the passage was, what was it? Mark 14? The passage
Mark 14:39.
39. Okay. It says that basically Jesus in Gethsemane, this is when Jesus is in the Garden of Gethsemane, okay? And he comes back to the disciples and he finds them sleeping and he says, Simon, why sleepest thou? Couldn't thou not watch 1 hour? Come on, you couldn't even stay awake for an hour and watch? He goes, watch ye and pray, lest ye enter into temptation. The spirit truly is ready, but the flesh is weak. And again he went away and prayed and spake the same words. The same words, what it's saying there is it's not saying the specific words. He wasn't doing a vain repetition. He was speaking the same words where he says, Abba, Father, all things are possible unto thee. Take away this cup from me. Nevertheless, not what I will, but thou wilt. What it's saying in that passage is that Jesus went back to praying to the God the Father and said, look, is there any way I don't have to go to the cross? Is there any way that I can, save the world and not have to die? Is there any other? And he goes, but it's not my will, it's yours that I'm going to follow. So he just went back. When it says the same words, it's not saying the same precise words as repetitious. He went back and he kept saying, he was asking the same prayer in multiple times. And it's okay to ask the same prayer multiple times if what you're saying, so for example, when we ask for somebody's healing, right? When we're asking for somebody to be healed, we go, Lord, please help them. We really want them to be healed. We really want them to be, in a good space and, do that for us, Lord. Could you please? So, it's more about that. That's not a vain repetition. We're just asking for their healing over and over. Like you with your stroke. I prayed for you multiple times that you would recover from your stroke. Yeah. That wasn't a vain repetition. That was just me going, I've got to remind myself that this is in God's hands. And honestly, sometimes prayer is more about reminding us about who and where God is than it is about God. So, anyway. Yeah. All right.
Well, that's a good segue as well, because the next question I have listed to ask is, when do we see an example of Jesus allowing sickness in anyone he met when on this earth? The very opposite is the only truth. Also, as our ultimately all through perfectly loving Father, how can you see him letting his children be sick and in pain?
Okay, you can stop. I remember this question because I can answer this really easily. what I said in that short video that this person took from was I said that sometimes and very rarely, like sometimes, but not often, that's not the major amount, but sometimes God actually allows us to go through suffering for some reason.
Yeah.
Sometimes we go through, and you can only point to things like, there's so many stories we can point to in the Bible. Joseph, Job, David, when he was fleeing and running away from Saul. I mean, like, I could name story after story after story. Paul, who asked God to take away his thorn in the flesh. Like, all of these are examples of where God allowed either something bad to happen to somebody, or allowed or did not heal someone, did not heal them, did not relieve them, because there was something that there was a greater purpose that he was trying to accomplish. Yeah. And so when you say, well, why would God allow people to be sick? Why would God not heal that? Well, the other thing I said in that short is that the vast majority of the time, God is not, he is not doing it for that reason, for the reason of teaching us something. The vast majority of the time that we have sickness and we have death and we have destruction and we have bad things happen is because we have sin and destruction in our world, and that's part of the devil trying to mess things up. Mm-hmm. And so it's not all the time, but it's also not, one of the reasons I said that in that video though, is because there are a lot of people out there who will say things like, well, if only you were spiritual enough, if only you were godly enough, this pain would go away, this sickness would go away, you wouldn't have to suffer from that. Well, that doesn't line up with Scripture at all.
No.
It does say that if we want healing, we can ask of God, but it doesn't say that we're automatic. God is not a fairy in the sky that we can just wave a magic wand and poof, he takes away everything. That's not the point of God. The point of God is not to just poof, take away all of our problems.
No. So we have to take care of ourselves sometimes.
Sometimes it's stuff that we have to take care of, and sometimes it's just bad things that happen to people.
Yeah.
I haven't told you guys about my biggest, shall we say, baddest story yet, but that will come out at some point. In fact, I think it's actually going to come out this week, because there is a passage in Genesis that we're going to cover this week that kind of talks about that, like talks about a similar type situation to what happened to me. And so we're probably going to talk about that this week. All right, carry on.
Okay.
As you can see, this is very much
very live.
Very live. And even though Russ had the access to the questions, he did not write down which ones he wanted to ask. I think next week you should write them down ahead of time.
Yes, I should. Well, some are just comments and not all are questions. Are fine.
If it's a comment that you think we should address, we can absolutely
Well,
respond
some people are saying amen and some people are saying bullcrap.
Well, that's because the people who say the bullcrap ones or other words.
What I can't understand is, like the person who said bullcrap, there is no God.
Right.
Then why go onto a Bible channel to listen to what that person has to say?
So here's what's interesting is I found it really interesting, and I do find that interesting. First of all, it's YouTube, it's the algorithm. Mm-hmm. Okay, so the algorithm from YouTube throws stuff on our feed all the time. Remember, this is from a short.
Yeah.
So basically, this person swiped and they saw my video, but they felt so strongly about that Bible short and about the fact they disagreed with the Bible so much that they felt it necessary to make a comment. I do think sometimes they think that's going to affect me. Do you think that would affect me?
No.
Why not?
Not at all.
Yeah.
Because you're strong in your faith.
Well, exactly. And it's really funny. It's certainly not going to stop me from talking about my faith. And it's not going to stop me from being on this channel for sure. Because there are a lot of people, like you said, that say, amen, thank you. I think it's Tom Hines, one of my regular people who's always on there. Thank you, Tom. You're an amazing guy. I love talking to you and love getting comments from you. Tom says things like, well, most recently, what was it that Tom said recently? Because I wanted to address that today as well in this time. Tom said, and this is Tom Hines -H6W. Awesome guy. love his comments. He has some really good insights as well. But he made a comment this week that I'd like to address, which is, "You're the only Bible teacher I listen to," he said. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
So that means a lot to me as well, because it means somebody is actually listening to a Bible teacher now.
well, and that is okay. So that's one way that I take that. But then, and I do appreciate him very much because he's a very nice person. But it does concern me a little bit because I don't think that I should be the only person anybody on this channel listens to. I think that you guys should be listening to multiple Bible teachers, maybe not on YouTube. That's fine if you want to just listen to me as your only YouTube person, that's fine. But you should be in a local church with a pastor who is also your teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And
now, we changed churches recently, and we know we went to several before we chose the right one.
yes, and that's fine if you're going to, and if you haven't found the right church and then you need some help, absolutely reach out. As you should know, in my description, every single one I say, reach out through this email. You send me an email on this email and I will help connect you.
Yeah.
So I appreciate Tom. I appreciate him so much. He's so complimentary. He's so nice. He's so kind. So I'm not putting him down, but I don't want to be his only source of truth. I really think you need to be having a pastor in your local area, somebody who can support you personally and locally, because I just do this for a little bit every day, and then break it up into shorts. And then
some
on Sundays,
churches have really good Bible groups as well.
well, and that's the thing is we can absolutely. And I would talk to if you send me an email and you tell me where you are and what you need, I will talk to my pastor and see if he knows of a great pastor in his in the town you're in,
area, yeah,
because he's got connections and networking. So I will ask him and get his input and get back to you.
So Matt Moore 1731 says, "What did Job's kids do wrong?"
So this was from I don't actually know for sure on this video whether he was saying Job or whether he was talking about Lot, because this was from a video that I did about Lot and about okay, so we were talking about Lot and his family escaping from Sodom and Gomorrah, and how the angels are like, you gotta go, and you gotta go now. You don't get to pack your stuff. You don't get to wait around. You go, and you gotta go. And so in that I said, however, as we're going to see later on, spoiler alert, may not have been the best thing if Lot and his children survived, because there were some bad things that happened. And if you don't know, go back and watch those videos. You get the full picture. But then he said, what did Job's kids do wrong? But there was nothing in that video that talked about Job's kids. But so my response to that is, well, Job's kids, and maybe he's referring to, in the long video, I think I talked about the fact that I don't even think in the long video on that one, but I have in the past talked about the book of Job and talked about how Job's kids did nothing wrong, and how they were killed because God allowed Satan to take control to test Job's faith. And one of the things he did was kill his children. And it's like, well, what did kids? They didn't do anything wrong. Job's kids didn't do anything wrong. There was nothing wrong with Job's kids. And it wasn't about Job's kids. And that's the thing, is sometimes we think that every act has a reaction. Like every act that God has is a consequence for our action. That's a faulty premise. There's nothing in the Bible that says everything that God allows or does is connected to what we do. Some of the things we do are never punished, even though they should be. And other things we do are punished. And some things happen that have nothing to do with punishment.
Okay, so
Next question.
I don't think I've asked this one already. Tom Tikungan, I hope I'm saying that right, 10 days ago wrote and said, when do we see an example of Jesus allowing sickness in
we did
anyone? We did do that one.
We did do that one. Yep, we did.
Dick Viz 7 says, only an idiot thinks they can summon Yahweh?
Okay, that was a misunderstanding. I will say, okay, when I saw that comment, I did respond to it. Let's see here. Only an idiot thinks they can summon Yahweh. And I said, this is a short taken from a longer video. You misunderstand the word summoning. It has the idea of opening our hearts and minds, which allows God to enter. I was not intending the word summoning to refer to an incantation, like as in, I'm going to summon the Holy Spirit. No. In that particular chapter, when we were talking about the name of Yahweh, we were talking about Yahweh.
Yeah.
And it says we're to summon God, which actually is referring to us opening our hearts in obedience to God, and about saying, I am open, Lord, to you. I am open to you being the head of my life. And so it's a summoning that says we are summoning by being open to God coming in and being available to him, but not like an incantation. I would agree. We're not going to summon incantations. Nah, not at all.
Someone says, hello, Sister Christian. That was from Tom Hines.
Yeah, I told you, Tom Hines is one of my, I love Tom. Tom's an awesome guy.
King WizKid says, amazing videos. I'm learning a lot. Thank you.
That's good. That's the point of this channel, folks. The point of this channel is God has given me a lot of knowledge because of the way that I was raised. And actually, I don't know that I talk about this all that much. I don't think I talk too much about my dad, do I?
No.
So my dad was a Bible college professor for like 30 years, and he taught Greek and New Testament survey, and of course he taught some Hebrew he knew some Hebrew as well. So a lot of my knowledge comes from my dad.
Yeah.
And comes from his teachings. So that's where a lot of it comes from. So I do think we are getting near the end and getting ready to wrap up here, because we haven't had anybody come in the chat. So if there's nobody in the chat, then, we've got about 5 more minutes and do a couple more questions. And actually, I'll ask one of the questions here, because you might not even realize it's a question. The person put up WDYM, which means, what do you mean? That's what it means. That's what the question is. And I've answered that because that particular one was about Abram. And it says, because Abram was told to leave his family and he didn't have Isaac until he was 100, many people assume that his father was dead. Okay, so the thing is, on that particular thing, what do I mean by that? Well, that particular short... Sorry about that. I needed a little drink. That particular short was talking about the fact that his father, and at the time he was Abraham once he had Isaac, but so Abraham's father, Terah, was still alive. He was just hundreds of miles away, and in the ancient world, that was like a long, long trip. But when Isaac was born, his father was still alive. And his father was alive for at least 20 years. And people are like, well, yeah, it was easy for Isaac to leave because, he was like 80 years old when he was told to leave. Well, first of all, when he first left, Terah was taken, he went with him up to what became Haran. And they all went up there. And then God said, nope, you need to leave all of them in Haran. And he left all of them in Haran and went down and, and settled in the land of Canaan, and eventually went to Egypt, then came back up, wandered around. Took a long time.
Yeah.
Took about 20, 30 years from the promise of what God told him till Isaac was actually born. But it wouldn't have taken 20 years. He could have made a trip up to Haran with Isaac to introduce him to the family, but that wasn't what God told him to do.
Yeah.
So the reason I mentioned it is because a lot of people think that it's easy. They're like, well, yeah, of course it was easy for Abraham to leave, or Abram at the time he left to leave, because, his family was old and they were about to die anyway. They weren't. Not at all. And you don't think that when he actually had a son after God's promise that he didn't want to, that there was no desire for him to, of course there was probably, he's still a man. I'm sure he did desire, because when he left, everybody knew Sarah was barren. And of course, in the ancient world, you didn't know if that was with the man or with the woman. They didn't know which one of them was the reason. And obviously, when he had Ishmael, it became very clear that it was Sarah's womb that was locked up, not Abram's sperm. But But yeah, his family never knew about that until Abraham sent his servant back up to Haran to get a wife for Isaac. And that was Rebecca. But that is what do you mean? I mean that.
That.
All right, one last question.
Well, I
from
do
Ross.
have a question I'd like to ask, and it was in the Noah's language. What did they really speak?
Okay.
And someone says, Charlotte West says, why the infernal busy note taking whilst peddling inanities? How much time quizzing viewers about the language after Noah?
Right. So a lot of people assume things about that time period that just aren't true. They assume things like because we think in the perception of where we are and what we have around us. A lot of people think about language. And at the time of this, I think, was that over the Babel? Oh no, that was after Noah. So what language did they speak? Well, we don't know what language they spoke, but we do know they didn't speak English. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. And they're like, oh, and they did not likely speak what we would consider to be Hebrew either.
I think it's more the fact that they don't want you writing whilst you're talking.
Well,
the
my
Bible.
Patreons would probably
Yes.
like me writing. Because anybody who is a member of Patreon, that is one of the benefits that you get if you are one of the members in Patreon, is you get access to all my notes, all my back notes and my current notes.
Yeah.
So as I go through, I'm writing notes out with thoughts and ideas. So even if you don't have time to watch the whole video, you will still get the notes from it if you are a Patreon member. So you can go to Easy Bible Study at patreon.com and you can find me there because that's what we are there.
You can download
And you can
all the
subscribe.
notes.
There are 3 levels of membership that you can do at Patreon. And one of them actually has is actually going to be when we don't have any subscribers at this level, but it does give you like one-on-one access, private access to me. And the other one will be a free ticket to a event because I'm planning to hold events once a year
Ah,
and be able to have it in a nice place where you can come and we can have other speakers there and other teachers of God's Word who are great and would love to have you join us with that. So
and it won't be me.
not a speaker
I'm
probably
not a
about
great
that,
speaker.
but I will have other speakers there.
Yes.
Maybe my mom and dad because my mom and dad both teach as well. So
Yes, they do.
yeah. So maybe other members of my family, maybe my uncle, maybe one of my cousins, maybe some of my pastors. I don't even know for sure right now. Once we get that scheduled, that's going to be at least another year before that happens.
Mhm.
So we will know more as we go along. But at a certain level, you actually get a free ticket to that event, and that will not be an inexpensive event. That will actually be a rather expensive one. So yeah. So top level Patreons get free ticket to that event. But low-level patrons at least get access to all of my notes.
All
They
your
get
notes,
all my
yeah.
notes from all my videos. Past.
So you can look up the research and do the research
Yep.
yourself as well.
Yep, exactly. All right. Anything else for us this week? No?
No.
Okay.
No one sent any questions in today.
Yep, there's no questions in the chat, but that's all right because if you wanted to, you can always drop them in the chat. And that is fine. We will see you guys next week. Thank you so much for joining us, right?
Yeah, thank you indeed for coming along and
For our inaugural Q&A, which didn't go exactly as planned, but that's all right. We made it through. We made it through just fine. We'll just leave this one in the books. How's that?
yep.
All right.
It's all in God's hand.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye for now.
Bye.